Clara Stevens gave her junior speech this fall about her perspective as one of many in her family to attend Columbus Academy. A captain of the cross-country team, member of varsity swimming and track, Clara also plays in the school band and the jazz band. She was a Junior States of America club president and a member of the service board. But perhaps the most important thing for you to know about Clara for the purposes of her speech today is that she is the devoted granddaughter of Bill and Paula McMenemy. Please welcome Clara to the stage.
The lights dim, the crowd quiets. As the speaker stands and approaches the podium, he feels the weight of his friends' and family's eyes focused on him. He takes a deep breath and begins his speech. There comes a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, and that he must take himself, for better, for worse, as his portion. My grandfather, also known as Poppy, first spoke this Ralph Waldo Emerson quote 66 years ago as he delivered his junior speech. And for as long as I've known my grandpa, I've heard this quote hundreds of times. Just this summer, when my family and I visited our grandparents' cottage in Michigan, the topic of my plans for the future came up in many different conversations. One night at dinner, my grandma Nani asked me if I had any ideas for my junior speech. And as I thought of a response, Poppy jumped into the Emerson quote that opened his own speech, like he had so many times before. Nani only responded with a gentle, "Bill, we've heard that already." The repetition of this quote is due to the fact that Poppy suffers from Alzheimer's disease, a brain disorder that affects his memory and behavior. This disease can cause him to lose track of recent conversations, repeat himself, or even forget important events. It has been hard watching his state worsen these past few years, but even as his memory declines, he has never forgotten his junior speech. His introduction, in particular, is so important to him because it truly embodies him as a person. It not only tells a story of his career, but also of his character. This quote underlines the importance of self-reliance, drive, and forming your own identity independent of those around you. And throughout his life, Poppy did just that. He built his career off of this ideology and became a successful entrepreneur because of his confidence in himself and in his identity. And it all started with his junior speech. The problem is, I've always been terrified that I'll never be able to do the same. From what I've learned about Poppy's life and career, his success began at CA. His identity was formed here, and his junior speech was not just a building block to this process, but the foundation. It represented who he was and who he became. So shouldn't mine do the same? It feels like it should be as important to me as it was for him. Important enough that he never forgot that opening quote, even as the effects of Alzheimer's took hold. But how can this speech have the same weight for me when I don't even know what my own identity is? Growing up, I believe that identity was based on passion. I've always had a wide variety of interests, from politics to STEM to running, but there's never been one thing I'm truly passionate about, leading me to worry about how this will affect my future and who I am. This fear has always haunted me, because if I didn't have passions, what was my identity? As a little kid, if I was asked the dreaded question of, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I never knew how to respond. My classmates all had dreams of becoming doctors, lawyers, astronauts, firefighters, but I never had an answer. Even as I found ways to like each subject in school for different reasons, my love of learning never led me to zero in on just one, which has always scared me. Everyone else had a favorite subject and a dream job to go along with it, so why didn't I? It felt like if I didn't have everything planned out already, I never would. And at a school like CA, this pressure caused a lot of stress. I certainly felt the effects of this in middle school. In 8th grade, when we were tasked with writing a mini junior speech in preparation for this one, I felt like I needed to write about my passions. But I couldn't. I knew even less about myself at that moment than I do now, and that ignorance terrified me. I remember crying to my family about not having a speech topic, and my mom asking me why I was so upset. The truth is, I was spiraling, imagining the worst outcomes for my future simply because I wasn't passionate enough about something that would lead to a career, or even just a good speech. What scared me the most was how unsure of myself and my identity I truly was. If I didn't have everything figured out like everyone else seemed to, how would I ever succeed? My mindset was that having a strong passion would not only lead you to a good job, but it would define who you are. But looking back, I realized that identity is made up of much more than just interests and passions, and that someone's career is and should be separate from who they are. Even though I had widespread interests and struggled to think of a topic for my 8th grade speech, it doesn't mean I won't be successful. Identity is not just defined by someone's interests, but also their personality, their backgrounds, the people they surround themselves with, and the choices they make. This is also what shapes a career, like it did for Poppy. When I first heard Poppy's Emerson quote, I believed that he must have known everything about himself by the time he gave his junior speech. But as I've learned more and more about him, I've realized that his identity was far from fully formed when he was just a junior in high school. It actually took his whole life for him to become successful and to discover who he is. Although Academy helps build the foundation of our identities, it is just one single aspect of who we are. There's far more to the story. Despite the seemingly never-ending pressure to know who we are and have our whole lives planned out, nothing needs to be decided today. Even my mom tells me that she still doesn't know what she wants to be when she grows up. So as I struggle with similar feelings of uncertainty, I know that career paths as well as identities can change. The truth is, I still don't know who I am or who I'll become. As I've come to learn, neither did Poppy. And when the lights dimmed and the crowd quieted 66 years ago, he stood up on this stage to give his own junior speech as I am today. He grew to be one of the most influential people in my life, and even if I don't know everything about myself right now, he's taught me that I have time to figure it out. Thank you.